Hi, my name is Martine. I have decided to make a vlog about my diagnosis and progression of multiple sclerosis. It's been a bit of a journey. I am actually still officially awaiting to see a neurologist who will actually take care of me long term. And I do now have an appointment with one, or I have at least in principle. I'm going to be offered an appointment, but it's been a long time in coming. But in the end, I've got the very best. So the top person in the country is going to take me on, and that is a huge relief. In the meantime, I'll just tell you a few things about how I came to be aware of things going wrong with me. I have literally had decades of neurological symptoms, albeit low-key. Mainly my right foot has been a bit catching on the pavement since my 20s. On and off, it would start for a period of 3 weeks, and then I'd forget all about it. I used to wonder what it was. Could it even be MS? Well, it did cross my mind, but then I'd rule that out very quickly because it would go away again. Also, I got on my left hand, I got twitching of my finger and thumb, and it would do this all by itself. I'm doing it now just to demonstrate. But from my 20s on, apart from neurological symptoms, I had major bowel symptoms, and they took over. They really overshadowed everything. And I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, for which in 2016 I had a pan-proctocolectomy with end ileostomy, which cured that particular disease. I also had cardiac issues. I've had atrial fibrillation. I've had Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. When I had the colitis, I had a complication known as pyoderma gangrenosum. That's a very severe skin, kind of like a flesh-eating type of syndrome. It's very unpleasant. It's treated with steroids and similar anti-rejection drugs, literally, that are used in transplants. But luckily that I haven't had a recurrence of that since I had the colectomy. And I had to have a left knee replacement because, well, the arthritis had eaten away at that on that knee. But the other one is kind of holding up, and it was a difficult recovery. Part of the difficult recovery was probably encroaching MS, but I'll tell you about that in a few minutes. Since the pandemic started, I've had periods of exhaustion, absolute exhaustion, where I really did not feel like getting up out of the bed, and sometimes I didn't. I have spent days in bed. I'm normally a kind of vivacious and active person. I like to do things, like to go places, but there have been times when I just have not been able to. I kept on putting that down to maybe sinus infections. And indeed, I had a problem with the septum, which caused difficulty breathing through the nose. I underwent recently a septoplasty for that, which is very successful. But the underlying cause of my exhaustion was not infections. It was more likely to be MS, which is giving me the same feelings of exhaustion without the any symptoms of respiratory or sinus infections. Coming up to Christmas, I noticed that my previously numb feet, well, they were numb towards the toes. They started, that numbness started creeping up a little bit. There were pins and needles darting, are kind of fizzy sensations. It's hard to describe if you haven't had them. A bit like pins and needles, but strange, because I had no pressure on any of the flesh. I wasn't crossing my legs or doing anything like that. I've also had cramps. I've had extremely severe cramps bilaterally, kind of out of the blue sometimes. But coming up to Christmas, I was booked a holiday to Lanzarote. I did a big walk around an island called La Graciosa off Lanzarote. It was very exhausting. I found myself, my leg kind of giving away a little bit, but then I said, sure, I'm overdoing it. So I didn't really pay much heed to that. But coming towards Christmas, when I was going to Gran Canaria, I was a little bit concerned about my foot. It started going from under me a little bit. When I was over there, I saw a brochure for skydiving, and I said to myself, well, if something is happening to me, this is my last chance of doing this adventure. So I decided to just go ahead and take the skydive, and I did it. And I'm absolutely thrilled that I took that opportunity, because I'd never be able to do that the way I am now. After Christmas, well, it was more or less the same. A bit unsteady, a bit unbalanced. But then came February into March. Definitely around the turn of March, I would say, I got a bad turn of events. I was in Dundrum shopping centre, and I knew my leg was giving way, my right foot. It was just going from under me. It was like walking on marshmallows, and it was very unsteady. I was going up one of those escalators, and then my foot just went from under me, and I just grabbed to steady myself. Otherwise, I would have been down on the floor. I was a bit worried. In fact, I was worried. I came home for the evening, and I didn't say much about it to anyone. It was more, I said, yeah, what do they say? She's got something else now. She's always got something, hasn't she? But that evening, I was retiring to bed, and I got up, and next second, my 2 feet went from under me. I tripped. They kind of caught. I was getting this kind of drop foot and catching the toes, and I said, "Uh-oh," and I just heard I felt and heard the big crack of my face slamming on the floor, and next second there was nothing. I woke up. I don't know how long after. People ask you, how long were you out for? Well, I was by myself, so I don't know. But I could not move an inch. And I said, uh-oh, I've broken my neck. That was worrying. I have since taken a measure of getting an Apple Watch, so that can alert my cousin. My next door neighbour has keys. And it'll alert emergency services. So that's a solution to that situation. Anyway, I was lying there. After that, I don't know, for half an hour, I just said, I can't move, but don't panic. You may as well not panic. After half an hour or an hour, I was able to start moving my hands around and my legs around. I couldn't put them in a way to support me. And I let another half hour to an hour go. And I then kind of was able to get into it on all fours, and I crawled back to bed. And I cleaned up a pool of blood, which was the shape of the map of Donegal later. So next day, I was very unwell. I could not really get out of bed much. Very little. I knew I was in trouble. So I had to make a decision. Decided to go to a private emergency clinic in a small hospital in South Dublin, and they admitted me for 2 weeks, but they said, we have no neurologist. We'll have to call one in. So they did call a neurologist from another hospital, another private hospital. She looked at my MRIs, all the various scans, lumbar punctures, blood work. She examined me, and she told me, well, she says, this is consistent with MS, and she said, you'll need following up. In the meantime, I was discharged. I went to Japan on a wonderful holiday, absolutely splendid, but it was very tough going because of my reduced mobility. It was terrible, really awful. So when I returned, I attended a follow-up appointment with the general medical professor who had admitted me to Blackrock, and he said the neurologist has declined to follow you up. She says you need following up, but she's declined to do it. And he says, I can't get you a referral to another neurologist. He says, I don't have powers to refer you to a public hospital. And he kind of more or less shrugged his shoulders and said, it was all smiles, like, I'm sorry, can't help you here really, but well, I was, to say I was angry is an understatement. To say I was upset, I was very upset. I was very depressed. I have been seriously depressed, really, So I went around hunting all the neurologists, sending them emails, firing them, politicians, everybody. It was a daily, it took me nearly most of the day, every day, just to do my research. I considered going abroad after getting so many replies. We can't take you on. Your case is urgent. Your GP has marked you urgent. You are so urgent, I can't offer you an appointment in time to address your condition. So you need to get it addressed more quickly elsewhere. So anyway, cut a long story short now, because it's been a bit of a journey. I ended up getting an email from the secretary of Professor Orla Hardiman, only the best in the country, and she said, I'll take you on. She'll take you, Professor Hardiman will take you on. So that is some relief. Now, I don't know when I'll get the appointment. I'll hopefully hear shortly. I've also to get my records back from Blackrock. I got scans, old scans from the Beacon, which were taken on account of trigeminal neuralgia. They did show lesions, and which kind of were, I don't know, those scans were then hidden, or they weren't made available or to my GP or to myself or to any other doctor. So I got them anyway. I have them. I sent them on to her, and I'm in the midst of putting the pressure on to get the scans and all the notes and all the lab work from Blackrock, and we'll see how it goes from there. Thank you for watching. I shall talk to you again, no doubt.